Hello, this is Rick Guptill. This is another RoboSim Pro video on teach locations. These are the frames that you want to teach in a cell to move the robot along a path. So first we'll install the robot that has the tool mounted on it and the part, and then we will create the frames or the locations we want the robot to move to. You can see that the TCP of the tool, the active TCP, has the Z out and the X to the right, so that's where we want to create a frame. One way to create a frame is to use the teacher, which is this little wireframe object that has XYZ on it. So here we can move to a vertice, so we click on that vertice, and now we'll align it with the edge. When you align it with the edge, it moves the Z-axis to the edge. Okay, either one way or the other. It depends on the direction of the edge. So here the Z-axis is along the edge. Now the Y is pointing straight down. So if we move the Y, if we move around the Y 180 degrees, now the Z is pointing along the edge, but really we want the Z pointing down. So we'll move the frame around the X minus 90 degrees. Okay, so now Z is pointing down. Now we want the X moving along the edge, so we'll rotate around the Z minus 90. There we go. So we have Z pointing down, X to the right along the edge. Then that should match our TCP. So we go to teach locations and then send the pose of the teacher, and we want to teach it on the part, so in case the parts move, then the frames move with it. They're children of the part. So we just click teach, and then it puts that frames F under there. So the frames are always under a shape called frames so that we can identify them. So now what we do is we move the teacher to that frame that we just created, that frame or location we just created. We can see that it matches up the TCP, which is what we want. So now it's easier to teach with the tool. So we'll just select the tool, pose of the tool. We'll leave the location name as F, and it'll realize there's already an F, so it'll make an F1. So here we just go to each individual vertice of the part, and we want to teach on. And notice how the X is always in the same direction. Okay, so it's not lining up with the edges because we haven't lined it up with the edges. So now what we can do is we can move back to the original point, the original vertex, and we'll move it up in the Z 100 millimeters, and we'll create a frame there called, you can either click on teach locations icon, or you can grab it from the paths top level menu. Then we can rename this last one as approach exit, because we're going to make a path where it's the starting frame, and then it moves to the other frames, and then it exits. So the next video to watch is how to create paths.